Alright, so today guys what we're going to look at some special products of binomials. Now think about what that means. Something special, that's unique. The word product means when you multiply, so think about these are some unique ways that you can multiply polynomials. Now this works depending on what type that you get. So you can always use the tried and true way of doing this as you learned from last video, but with this video I'm trying to show you some shortcuts. So that's our goal in this video, is we want you to be able to be proficient, efficient with multiplying your binomials. So it's a quick little two examples here that I think you guys will like. If you can get it, good. If you can't, just keep trying it. Keep trying it a couple times and then it might click for you, okay? Because that's what I want. I want to make sure that this clicks for you. Alright, so in the first example what we're going to look at is we're going to look at a square of a binomial pattern. So this is the special case. This is unique because it's a pattern that always works, and the unique case is only when it looks like a plus b squared and a minus b squared. So that is the pattern right there. I'm not going to really get into that just yet, but I'll walk you through it. We're going to go back to this in a minute, but I'm going to put up an example, and this would be a square of a binomial. So this would be an example of something that you would see written out. Would be, say, 3x plus 4, and then we would square it. So this, we can use this pattern for this. So if you notice right here, this is the plus, so we would be using this pattern right here. So bear with me. I know it can be a little confusing at first, but the first thing that we need to remember is that this guy right here is really a plus b squared, right? See how this looks identical to this? So in your head you should be thinking this right here. You should be thinking that your a value is equal to 3x and your b value is equal to 4. So all that means is with this pattern that I have to use this one right here. So I'm going to do a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So all you have to do is take these values and substitute them back into here. And then you simplify it. So now this would be 9x squared. This would be 12 times 2, 12 times 2 would be 24x, and then 16. And then you're done. So that's all you're really doing. I know it looks super complicated, which it might be at first, but think about what you're actually doing. You're really just putting it into a formula, if you can think about it. Or the easiest way to remember this, and the way that I always do it, I don't really even think about, I kind of think about this when I do it, but I think about, okay, I know if this is plus, I know this value will be plus right here. All I have to do is square this value. So if I square 3x, that's going to be 9x squared. If I square this, I'm going to get 16, so that's where that comes from. And then all I have to do is multiply these together, so that would be 12x, and then you multiply it by 2. So if you can remember that pattern, I think you'll be good to go. So I'm going to actually do this out real quick using the method that you guys already might do. So let's say if I expanded this. Let's say if I had 3x plus 4 and then 3x plus 4. That is what this is expanded out. So you do know that. Now you guys could solve this a couple different ways. You could use the table method, the box method, FOIL method, depending on which way that you like. So I'm going to do this real quick using the box method. Alright, so I did that using the box method. I sped up the video, but this takes me a lot longer than what I was doing up here. But you can see that, do you see how you square the first term? And you get 9x squared. You square the second term, and you get 16. And do you notice that you have to double these two? Right? That's where that double came from, because you really have two of them. You really have 12x and 12x. So when you do the box out, you should see that you have really two of those terms, and if you multiply them by 2, that's where that 24x comes from. So this is the pattern for when it's something, a term plus another term squared. So that's called the square of a binomial pattern. And now I'll do a different one using the subtraction one. But again, rewind this. I know it's a little confusing, but rewind it if you need to. But you'll get this. The more you do it, you'll start to get it. Alright, so let's take a look at this example now. I have 5x minus 2 squared. So this is a square of a binomial pattern because you're squaring a binomial. Okay? So we want to think, all right, which one am I going to use? Is it going to be the plus one or the minus one? All right, it's going to be this one. So that means I'm going to be doing a minus b squared, and I'm really just using a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. All right, so just as the previous video, since this is minus, I know this is going to be minus and this will be a plus. It always is a minus when this is a minus, okay? So all we have to do is square this guy. Now you don't have to write this out each time. I really want you guys to be able to skip this step that I'm doing right here. And actually let's spread this out a little bit. So we had 5x squared minus 2. What's my a value? Now we'll go over here, right? You should be thinking in your head, this is no longer 3x. What's my a value in this one? I know my a value is 5x, and my b value is 2. So I'm going to be using that up in my head. That's what I'm thinking up in my head. So 2 times my a value, which is 5x, and then my b value, which is 2, and then I'm going to also square that. So we should have something like that. All right, so then from here, all we have to do now is just do out the math, right? So 5x squared is really 25x squared. This right here would be, I like to put these two together first, so that's 10x. So then times 2 would be 20x plus 4. So you should be able to, at this level, I'm hoping you'll skip this step, but I'm showing you this step so you know how I got there, right? Because really think about it, what I really want you to start to do is go, okay, I know that this is a square of a binomial pattern, so all I have to do is square this guy. So 5x times 5x is 25x squared. Square this guy, that gives me plus 4. And then I'm going to multiply these two together, right? So 5x times negative 2 is negative 10, and then multiply it by 2, that gives me the negative 20x right here. So if you can think of that in that term, that way it might help you out, but you have to think about what works best for you, because again, I want you to be super efficient with this, and instead of sitting here and expanding it and doing it all the way out. If you can follow this pattern, this practice will go super quick for you. So I don't want you to expand it for this. I really want you to take the time to try to follow the flow of the pattern. Think of it as a formula if you want, or think of the shortcut I just said. Square this, you get this. Square this, you get this. Put these two together, multiply it together, and then multiply it by 2. That's where this comes from. So rewind this again. I know it's kind of a little confusing, but the quicker you can get this, the faster these go and the more efficient you'll get, and then you can focus on a little bit more challenging problems. So good luck. We're going to do another example that has nothing to do with this, but it's still a special product pattern. All right, so here, this one's actually a little bit, I think, less complicated than the other one because there's a little bit less to think about. This is called a sum and difference pattern. So if you have a sum and a difference, this is a sum, right, and this is a difference. So if you have those two, it doesn't matter which way they're written. It could also be written the other way around, where it's a plus b and a minus b. It's always going to be written as your product of these two would always be written as a squared minus b squared. So an example of that, let's say if you had something like this. I had t plus 5 times t minus 5. Now in the previous video we would box method, we would do this out, right? And we would get something like this. And you notice when we do this out, these cancel out. These are like terms, but one's a minus and one's a plus, so they're opposite, so they cancel out. And I get t squared minus 25. That is always going to happen when you have the same term here and here and the same term here and here. If you're adding and subtracting them, that middle guy is always going to cancel out. Just as the previous example, we had double these and we had to multiply them by 2. This, they cancel out because one's minus and one's plus, right? One's minus and one's plus, so that's what happens there. So the pattern to this, I don't want you guys doing all this work. I would rather have you guys think, okay, what's my a value? So this is no longer makes any sense here, right? The a value for this one would be t. The a value, the b value would be 5, right? So t, that's all I'm using. So I don't want to use this anymore. But what I do want to use is I want to use the pattern. So if it's a plus b, and then it's a minus b, I know that it's going to equal a squared minus b squared. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do for this. I'm actually bringing this over here because I'm running out of boardroom. So I know in my head, all right, I'm thinking a is t, b is 5. All I have to do is plug it into this right here. So my a value is t My b value is 5. And most of you guys can start to skip that step, and that would be your answer. So you don't have to use the box method, you don't have to use the FOIL method, you don't have to use the table method. When you see something like this, when you have a sum and difference, or a difference in a sum, whatever it might be, you can use this pattern. It's always going to work. Use it. It's going to save you time, okay? So don't sit here and think that you have to struggle through this and try to do it all the box method. This should be pretty quick, all right? If you see something like this, you should be going directly to this. All right, let's try another one. But you notice that these are the same as this over here, but it could also be flipped the other way too. It also could be x plus 3, x minus 3. It doesn't matter. Both of those will multiply out to be the same thing. So depending on how it's given to you, both of these follow the same pattern. So don't think that it matters. This is really can be written like this, and you'll still get the same pattern. Okay, so both of those are identical. So don't get confused with that. Both of these will give you the same product. So all I have to do is think of what's my a value, x, what's my b value, is 3. So all I have to do is square the x, and then I'm squaring the 3, which would be 9. Same thing here. What's my x? Right? What's my x? What's my a? It's x, and what's my b is 3. So you can see that they're both the same. I didn't really have to do any much mathematical like multiplying there. It's really just knowing the pattern. If you know the pattern, square the first term, right? And then subtract the second term of the square. So x squared, and then 3 squared. That's where that came from. So rewind this and look at it a few times. It's always going to look that way. And again, you could use the box method to figure that out, but I don't want you to. I want you guys to be efficient. At this level in high school, you should be able to see that and go from here to here. And again, it doesn't matter the order, so don't get confused with that. Remember, think of what your a value is and think about what your b value is. And you guys shouldn't have too much difficulty with this. So when you do the practice, stay away from, for this section, stay away from the box method, stay away from the FOIL method. Try to use the pattern that I just showed you. That's up on the screen for both of them. All right, good luck. You guys got this. If you have any questions, make sure you ask some questions. But I feel like you guys should be good with this moving forward. So good luck. Thanks for popping in.